Are you a manager who is eager to change the trajectory of your career? I have spent the last 23 years as a Fortune 50 leader learning from other industry leaders how to break free from limiting beliefs and habits. On the Might in Motion podcast, we focus on the 4 M's: motivation, momentum, mindfulness, and might. We bring you leaders from Fortune companies, doctors, and entrepreneurs. Their stories of living their own might in motion will inspire you to create your own action plan and achieve your goals. Welcome to Might in Motion. Today's episode of Might in Motion is brought to you by Pantheon FM, Fortunes Magnified. Pantheon FM is changing the world through entrepreneurship. In this community, you will find everything you need to create, amplify, and monetize your world-changing business. Join us at pantheon.community/register/LAUA. Brian Biro is America's breakthrough speaker. He has delivered nearly 1,900 presentations around the world in the past 34 years. With degrees from Stanford University and UCLA, Brian has appeared on Good Morning America, CNN, and as a featured speaker at the Disney Institute in Orlando. The author of 16 books, including his new Lessons from the Legends and bestseller Beyond Success, Brian was recently named one of the top 10 interactive speakers in North America and one of the top 60 motivational speakers in the world. Please welcome Brian to Might in Motion.
Hey, thanks so much.
I am really stoked about our time.
I'm pumped as well. I enjoyed our pregame conversation so much. I can't wait.
So before we get into breaking boards, which is what you're really known for, what intrigued me was your journey to get there. And so many leaders forget that there's a journey. You went from a swim coach to a VP at Linden Freight, and I'd love for people to know what that is, to an international speaker breaking boards and helping people break through with your guidance. And so how did you get there? How did you get from swim coach to what you're doing today?
Well, I think that the common bond in all of those seemingly disparate careers is people. Is that my first career when I graduated from college I was a U.S. swimming coach. But you don't really coach swimming. You coach people. You coach people to break through over their fears, to break out of habits and comfort zones that become confinement zones. So plus, to be a professional speaker later in life, when swimmers are in the water, they don't hear very well. So you have to use your voice really loud. So that was a good practice there as well. But it was really about understanding that it was about vision, about focus, about teamwork. Because a lot of people think swimming is an individual sport. We're at the Olympics here, but it's a team sport. You have no idea how much we mean to each other. And when in the swimming pool, when the swimmers are working well together, it's almost as if a current pushes them faster. So that was my first step. And really the only reason I'm still not a swimming coach and went into my corporate career was I had no life. All I had was work. My swim team became huge. It was all encompassing 24/7. And I really wanted to have some balance in life. I wanted to have a family. I wanted to know myself beyond just what I did. And I really did find that. I'm probably the only guy, Mariana, who went to graduate school to get a life instead of a job. And I did. And that's when I went in my corporate career. And as you and I talked, because we have a connection around transportation, I ended up becoming a vice president in the Linden companies, which it's a long time successful company in transportation. And I had a blast. But I didn't have a passion for transportation. I had a passion for people. And I actually started doing team building in my own company to try to break through those silos that are in almost every company, where operations can't stand sales. Sales can't stand operations. They both hate the home office a little bit more. And that just made no sense to me. And so I was a VP. My president was a very forward-thinking guy and allowed me to create these team building events that were all around North America where we had offices. And it was a smashing breakthrough. We really came together as a team. And when we did that, it was amazing how our creativity, how we were able to do things we never thought possible, we never even thought of before. Because when you work together, that's when you create those synergies. So at the peak of that great turnaround at Linden, I said to my wife, honey, we're doing great. Let's quit. All right. And because I want to go do this. And so that was 34 years ago. And I've had just an incredible love of what I do. I love being a spark. You know, people say I'm a motivational speaker because it's easy to define it. I'm a motivated speaker. Motivation must be internal. And so at the best, I see myself as a spark, as kind of a catalyst to help people find out what's already in them. We break through when we get beyond thinking that we're overachievers, that we have more in us than we thought. So it has been a wonderful journey, and I plan to keep on doing it as long as my two legs will hold me up.
I love this. You know, you said something that I thought was really, really key when you talked about it was about the teamwork, not necessarily like a passion for teamwork, not for transportation. I've had a long multi-decade career in transportation, and I love transportation, but it is a people business. If it's not for the truck driver or the person in the distribution center unloading and loading, or the person at a store unloading, you don't really have transportation. You have to have the people side. And I always tell that with my team or any new folks, it's all about your people relationship skills. You can learn what a truckload is, an LTL, how to ship stuff to Alaska or Guam or wherever, but you can't. One thing that is that it's harder to teach somebody is how to care about others so that you can all rise up. So I love that was your passion.
And you know, Mariana, you bring up such an important focus, and that is, you know, I've had in doing 1,900 events around the world, I've spoken for virtually every industry and, you know, thousands of companies, and we're all in the people business. It's the relationships you build, it's how you grow and help others grow that will determine how far you can go. So you may think you're in a business that's all tech, or you may think you're in a business that's all manufacturing. It's people. That's the differentiating factor. When people work the way they can work, that's when we break through to levels that are extraordinary. And if you think of every organization, every company that is at the top of their field, it's the people. It's that little edge in the way their people work together, in the way that they are unselfish and focused on helping each other get better every day. It's their spirit, it's their attitude, it's their focus. It's really, that's the core of what I call breakthrough leadership.
I love that. And when we talked earlier, you know, one of the things you said was to be easy to impress and hard to offend. And new managers sometimes don't understand that concept. So, can you kind of dive into that a little bit more?
Oh, I'd love to. That's one of my very favorite things to say. First of all, being easy to impress and hard to offend is a recipe to be a great leader. It's a recipe to have a great life. It's a recipe to break through. When you're easy to impress, that doesn't mean you're a pushover and you're naive about everything. It means you're looking for the best in people. You're what I call a positive Pygmalion. The Pygmalion effect says that our thoughts and our beliefs and our expectations are magnetic. That as we look at people, we not only see what's there, we actually are moving them in the direction of what we see. So when you're easy to impress, you look for those qualities, even in the people that you're kind of certain God put on the planet to bug you. You still look for what's good in them, what's different than what you do, and where they may excel at a higher level. So that's the easy to impress part. The tougher part for most people is to be hard to offend. We have this incredible habit of taking everything personal. And a great way to become less offended is to insert a question. When somebody kind of strikes you wrong, it kind of feels abrasive. Ask yourself, what else could this mean? Maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe I didn't really understand what they said. It was a miscommunication. Maybe they just found out that a loved one has cancer. Maybe it has absolutely nothing to do with you and only something to do with something that you have no control over. So when you're hard to offend, that allows you to get out of always having to be right. You know, there are two needs that cripple us as leaders and as human beings. First is the need for approval. Now, we can appreciate approval. We can love people to love us. But if you need it, you'll never have enough. All right. You'll never be good enough. And if somebody gives you a lot of approval, you're worried that you won't be as approved the next day. Need for control is where this focus on being someone who is hard to offend is important, because we don't control other people. And many people have what I call in their life, they have somebody they're sure is what I call an energy vampire. And what I mean by that is, you know, you can be feeling great, but you have this one person who you know is going to put you down. You know is going to say, this will never work, and here's why. And sometimes, often, it's somebody that we really is very important in our lives. It's our boss, it's our spouse, it's a friend, and they mean well. All right. But here's the truth. No one can take your power away from you. No one can be an energy vampire and suck your energy away unless you give them permission. All right. And anyone can do it when you give them permission. So if you have somebody in your life, you're pretty certain is that energy vampire. Here's great words. Bob Newhart said it in a great comedy sketch. Stop it. It's not their energy. And when you're hard to offend, you don't let people take your energy away. You release that energy vampire, never out of anger, because that's not releasing them, but only out of joy. A personal example real quick. The guy I thought was my energy vampire for a big part of my life was also the guy who was my hero when I was a kid. It was my dad. You know, my dad was like a lot of dads. He was tough and strong and could never say, I love you. Could never give me a hug. And for the longest time, I thought he was my energy vampire. And then one day, I kind of released that out of joy. I had just been married for a year. We had our first child. I was on top of the world. And I decided, you know what? For the first time ever, I'm going to be myself around my dad. I'm going to not give away my energy and try to be who I think he wants me to be. And one day, I found out how much I love my dad and how much he taught me. I realized that he had always told me he loved me. I just didn't get it, because the only way he could do it was work 2 jobs, was to work on an old bike and get it ready for me on Christmas morning. He could never hug me, say, I love you, but that's how he did it. Today, my 93-year-old dad is one of my best friends in the world. We talk every single day, but it could never have happened until I said, I got to stop being so easy to offend. So I love that you picked that up, because when you really live those two sides of the coin, easy to impress, all right, then you give credit. You don't try to take it, all right? And you're really about character. And when you're hard to offend, you don't have to be right. And it's amazing how much can it get accomplished when nobody cares or gets the credit.
That 100%. 100%. Now, and I love that you touched on joy. I just recently took my kids to see the movie Inside Out 2. And, you know, it has all the little girl's emotions, you know, in her head. And one of them is joy. And as you go through adolescence, you know, sometimes that joy diminishes, and then we get to be adults and it's hard for us to find joy. And then as you go through kind of your middle age, right? And now that I'm kind of getting out of middle age, or starting to get in, you know, further on in my career, in my life, and I stop caring really like what other people think, the joy comes back. It's like this very interesting bell curve, but you know, in the other way, right? Where it's like you have this dip and it comes back up. So I love that you touched on how when you embrace the joy, you can release the vampires, you can release that negative energy, and it's that magnet of bringing back positivity comes back to you.
Absolutely. You know, one of my books is called It's Time for Joy, How to Become the Happiest Person You Know. And the starting place is to recognize that joy is actually a choice. You know, we've all seen this in life. 2 people have seemingly the same experience. One sees nothing but joy and the other sees destruction. It's not the experience. It's the way that it's not what happens. It's what we do with what happens. And so I wrote that book mostly to help people take a step back, and because we think joy is something that must happen to us, but it's really our choice to look for the joy in every moment. I think this incredible creation called grandchildren helps us rediscover joy. I have two grandkids, and you hit it so well. When we're younger and we're parents, that bell curve gets caught up in the rush and gush of trying to get through life, trying to figure out, how can I make enough money to support my family? How can I do a good job at work and still make dinner? How can I, get my kids to all these things? And so we're not, and here's the secret ingredient in joy, and that is being fully present. When you're fully present, 100% of your mind, body, and spirit is with the person you're with, where they are now. And we've all been with people where we know their body's here, but their mind is somewhere else.
Yeah.
And whenever we're fully present, we say to each person we're present with, you are important, you matter, you count. And whenever we're not present, we speak louder. We're saying you're not that important. And so you'll never have joy when you're way out in the future or way back in the past. Stop looking in the rearview mirror. That's not where you're going. I guess it's appropriate that I'm talking to you from my car, so I'm not looking in the rearview mirror. All right. And when you do that, when you're more present, you will be more joyful, because you will notice the things that are always there that you miss because you're worrying about what hasn't happened yet, or you're worried about what happened last week, neither of which you have any effect upon. You can't change the past. It's done. So get forward into the present. And when you do that, joy will start to become a more profound and more common and more exciting and more wonderful choice.
That is so true, and it resonates with me very, very much. With two kids, there are like birthdays and stuff. I try to actually leave the phone, and then I look back and I'm like, I didn't get any pictures. I'm like, I don't really care about the pictures. I care more about, like, was I more present with what was going on versus a picture that I'm probably never going to take off my phone. So why bother, right? Now I want to kind of go back, because we started with your career path, right? I want to know more about what you do with breaking boards. And for those of you that might be listening to the podcast and not watching, right, or maybe haven't seen some of your videos of you on stage and then walking in the audience and helping people really, truly, physically and emotionally break through, can you give us a visual of what you do and why you do it this way?
I love it. First of all, I've had almost 1 million people, if not 1 million people, break boards with me karate style in their events. I've done it 1,900 times, and I can't wait to do it in the next event, because what I want to do as a professional speaker, and why I consider myself a motivated speaker, even though the world calls me a motivational speaker, it's not about me. It's about the audience. I want the audience to have a real life breakthrough experience that causes them to actually apply the very things we've learned up to that closing moment in the seminar where they break through their board. To actually apply, because breaking through is about vision. It starts with vision. You can't be it till you see it. All right. The second is about energy. I joke, these are 1-inch thick wooden boards. And I say, when your energy is at level 2 on a 10-point scale, it's a brick. At level 10, it's not that tough. So it's about understanding how to elevate your energy. And most of all, the way I do it, it's about meaning. And it's as much a team experience as an individual experience. In fact, I call it the greatest combination of individual and team experience you'll ever have. The individual part is related to the meaning. I have everyone write on the board and get clear about something they want to break through. A limit, fear, obstacle, habit, or doubt. Could be something they're good at, but they feel like they've plateaued. They're on a treadmill. They've stopped growing. And so I've had people beat cancer, change the way they dealt with cancer, and viewed that, hey, started focusing on not the cancer, but on being well. I've had people lose over 100 pounds. I've had people totally turn around their careers and elevate them. I've had people become better moms and dads, bring their families back together. So the first part of the breakthrough experience that's so powerful is the meaning, which each person clarifies for themselves. All right. On the front of the board, they write down what is that obstacle I'm ready to break. Example, the first board I ever broke, I wrote the word procrastination, about not writing books. On the back of the board, they get to use that vision and envision and write down what's waiting for me when I have broken through. What am I going to do, be, feel, create, have in my life? Because never again will I let that hold me back. So on my first board, I wrote procrastination about not writing books. That was my dream, but I always found a way to put it off. I'll do it when the kids are older. On the back of my board, I saw myself with that book already written, and wrote freedom, abundance, and truth to my word. Then when I broke through, I would bring my family new abundance. We'd have freedoms we didn't realize were there, and I'd be living my word every day. So the individual part is so caught in that powerful meaning. But there's more to the individual part. If I had an event where I had 500 people, we would start with 50 circles of 10 people each, with one person in each circle holding the board for the other 9 people. And if you were in a circle, Mariana, everyone around you is going, Mariana, Mariana, Mariana. So there's 50 going at a time, music's pounding, clapping hands. Some people have never been cheered for in their life. And for them, that's the great breakthrough. Feel, wow, I never realized what it felt like to feel so much a part of a team. The team part is equally powerful. There's something about it. I can't even explain it, but even more introverted people let go, and the cheering for each other is astonishing. And probably the best part about the team element, the only way I can explain it, the best day of my life was my daughter's wedding day. And it was for something I never could have clearly understood until I experienced it. And that was on her wedding day for probably 6 hours. I didn't think of myself once. All I could do is think of her. They tell me I was laughing and crying at the same time. I don't remember. All I remember was her. And when those 9 people are around Mariana going, Mariana, Mariana, they get to feel the way I felt about my daughter. They've moved from ego to we go and focusing only on another human being. And that is an incredible experience. And so it's so energizing to break your board yourself. But for many people, it's somebody else. The biggest breakthrough event I ever did, I had 4,000 people break boards. Home Depot loved me that day. 4,000 pieces of wood. And the last person to break the last board that day was a 95-year-old woman who could not have been 4'10". Her granddaughter had to get up on the stage behind her and hold her by her waist from behind so she wouldn't teeter too much. And when she broke that board, it was the last one, 4,000 people made such a roar that I don't think my ears have recovered since. And for those 4,000 people, I'm convinced that as great as they loved, as much as they loved their breakthrough, her breakthrough meant even more to them. And we realized that we'll do more for others than we'll do for ourselves. That's why it's so important to recognize that we're all part of a big team.
That is so, it's just so powerful. And, as a team leader for a very long time, almost 20 years of leading others, this resonates the most to me. Like, I always talk about trying to get my teams from chaos to community. Community is where you actually want to help other people. You want to help your neighbor, or, move the couch, or, hey, you want to make your yard look nice because you want the whole neighborhood to look nice. That's community, right? It's you're taking care of somebody else. You're picking up the trash as you go on your walk or whatever, right? It may not be your trash, but you want to level everybody up. And that image that you just gave of 4,000 people, just all with one focus, with one mission, and then that last person helped accomplish it, has probably not only resonated with you, where you still hear that thunderous applause in your ears. All of those people now have a core memory that ties back to that they can then go and tap into whenever they need it, when they're just like, I don't know, and they're down in the dumps. They can tap into that, and it'll help them level back up into that joyous feeling because you did it together.
Absolutely. And you hit on something I think is so important for people to recognize. And that is, whenever we seek to enrich another's experience, we can't help but enrich our own, because it pours our focus into a place we might not ever have been. Those 4,000 people cheering, every single one of them deep down inside recognizes that maybe my little voice that you couldn't hear among that 4,000, the only one who could hear it was me, maybe that was a little bit that helped them, and it filled me up. Those 4,000 people, I put it this way: when you break a board on a 10-point scale, 10-point energy scale, with one being comatose and 10 a child on Christmas morning, breaking a board, you're level 10. But for most people, it's when somebody else breaks their board that it takes you to level 11.
Yeah.
All right. So that you hit it so well. It's really the joy of of understanding how we can impact others. But whenever we do so, we impact ourselves. We bring out the best in ourselves by doing exactly that.
This has been awesome. This has been a great way for me to start my day, you to start your day. And I've gained even more today than I did when we talked like two weeks ago. And I love that. I love it when that happens, because I know people who are listening are also going to gain a whole bunch of golden nuggets. And you probably saw me scribbling. I love having my pen and writing, notes as we go. And there were some things that I wrote down that I just want to make sure that people really tuned into. So, one is that throughout your career, people were the common thread. And for you to be able to get over your fears and have a vision and all that, you have to have a team that will work together. And when you work well together, everybody succeeds. Even you talked about when you're swimming, like it's almost like the tide turns for everybody, where everybody starts going faster because you all have that central vision. And that when you were, at Linden, and you realized that teamwork was your passion, that you were given that ability, you were given that opportunity to go and grow that within the company. And you saw that the creativity of the company grew with that, just through like your ability to help bring people together, to be that spark for others. We talked about a recipe for a great leader is to look for the best in others, and that our thoughts are magnetic. So if you're thinking positive thoughts about someone, more of that positivity is going to come out. The opposite could happen too. So you must be mindful of that. And, when you have those positive thoughts, you will see people grow. Now, there are things that could cripple you as a leader. And so those two things to watch out for that you called out were, that a never ending need for approval or a need for control. Those two things will like totally torpedo your vision as a leader to help level people up. And you talked about when you do level people up, it actually allows you to like bring more joy, right? That joy is a choice. And when you choose to look for it, more of that joy will come, and you'll see that really resonate with everybody around you. And then we talked more about like how you go in from an interactive place when you're speaking to others through the actual physical breaking of boards. Over 1 million boards broken under your watch, which I think is just absolutely amazing. And it's about how everybody in that audience elevates because they're cheering other people on. It no longer is just about them as the individual, but it's now about us as the community. And you've had these moments of clarity where you're like, man, there's people that have never been cheered for, and if you haven't grown up in sports and you haven't done maybe nobody has cheered for you. And so that focus on others has allowed more people to do more for each other. I just think it's truly inspirational. And if people are like, man, what Brian does, like, I need to have that at my next event, or I want to learn about all the books he's written, is the best way for people to get a hold of you is to go to your website. Like, what's the best way for people to connect with Brian?
Absolutely. That's the simplest and easiest way. Just go to my website and it's right there. It's www.brianbiro.com. Some of the books are on Amazon, or you can get them on my website. And, it's funny that I love my audiences and I love the wonderful comments we get, but I love what I do because of the way I feel doing it. And to bring it to organizations, my greatest goal is at the end of the event that the audience, the participants, feel like they're the stars of that presentation. And that's why I have them do the breakthrough. Incidentally, Mariana, you are officially now a PhD breakthrough leadership student. That was a brilliant recap. Way to go.
Thank you for tuning into Might in Motion. If you learned something about motivation, momentum, mindfulness, or might, please like, comment, and share. Thank you.